Hi guys, welcome to another weekend. It's really great to be with you guys again. I think we're on to week 9 here. It's been a good journey, and let's just jump right into it. So today, I'll be bringing a lesson from John chapter 4. And we'll be getting some insight from our social distancing champion of the week, the woman at the well. And this story has a lot of great aspects to it, and I was inspired by Eric's Monday talk on 1 Corinthians chapters 12 and 13. So I kind of wanted to use today's talk as an extension of that talk, kind of like lesson 1, lesson 2, right? And for those who haven't seen Eric's video, just give you a quick recap on what 1 Corinthians chapter 12 and 13 is. It's chapter 12 talks about us being one body and talks about all the different parts of the body, and each part has a purpose. And chapter 13 then goes into a lesson about love and what love is and how this is the ultimate product of being unified, right? And so I think today's story fully embodies this concept from Monday's talk. So John chapter 4 verses 4 through 26, and it says, "Now he had to go through Samaria, so he came to a town in Samaria called Sychar, near the plot of ground Jacob had given to his son Joseph. Jacob's well was there, and Jesus, tired as he was from the journey, sat down by the well. It was about the 6th hour. When a Samaritan woman came to draw water, Jesus said to her, 'Will you give me a drink?' His disciples had gone into the town to buy food. The Samaritan woman said to him, 'You are a Jew, and I am a Samaritan woman. How can you ask me for a drink?' For Jews do not associate with Samaritans." Jesus answered her, "If you knew the gift of God and who it is that asks you for a drink, you would have asked him, and he would have given you living water." "Sir," the woman said, "you have nothing to draw with, and the well is deep. Where can you get this living water? Are you greater than our father Jacob, who gave us the well and drank from it himself, as did his sons and his flocks and herds?" Jesus answered, "Everyone who drinks this water will be thirsty again, but whoever drinks the water I give him will never thirst. Indeed, the water I give him will become in him a spring of water, welling up to eternal life." The woman said to him, "Sir, give me this water so that I won't get thirsty and have to keep coming here to draw water." He told her, "Go call your husband and come back." "I have no husband," she replied. Jesus said to her, "You are right when you said you have no husband. In fact, you have had 5 husbands, and the man you now have is not your husband. What you have said is quite right, quite true." "Sir," the woman said, "I can see that you are a prophet. Our fathers worshipped on this mountain, but you Jews claim that the place where we must worship is in Jerusalem." Jesus declared, "Believe me, woman, a time is coming when you will worship the Father neither on this mountain nor in Jerusalem. You Samaritans worship what you do not know. We worship what we do know, for salvation is from the Jews. Yet a time is coming and has now come when the true worshipers will worship the Father in spirit and truth. For they are the kind of worshipers the Father seeks. God is spirit, and his worshipers must worship in spirit and in truth." The woman said, "I know that Messiah, called Christ, is coming. When he comes, he will explain everything to us." Then Jesus declared, "I who speak to you am he." This woman is our social distancing champion because she was waiting until noon to go collect her water. Clearly waiting until the middle of the afternoon, presumably on an extremely hot day, to be lugging back water, lots of water, and in a water jar. It's really taking the 6 feet rule to extreme. It seems that she's trying to go to the well at a time when there's nobody there, because other people would be taking water from this well, presumably, and Jesus seems to be the only one present. So she's going at a time when she knows probably there's nobody else. And we've learned in the middle of the story why she might be avoiding other people, because she's carrying maybe a shame or the burden of having 5 husbands and currently being in a socially unacceptable living situation, as it seems like she's living with a man but they're not married. coming up to the well, I can only imagine that this woman, she might be kind of annoyed that there's somebody there already, right? And as she gets closer to the well, not only does she see that it's somebody, but that it's a man, and that even to make it worse, like, she realizes that he's a Jew. So it's just kind of like 3 strikes. And I feel like we kind of get a sense that maybe she's kind of already over life, or over her life, maybe over her life situation. And maybe she's kind of like, oh well, what's one more thing going wrong in my life? What's one more rumor? Because in these times, going to a well and being there with somebody who's not your husband and talking to them and conversing with them, it has some serious implications that you are either with that person, that you like that person, or that you are that person's, I don't know, spouse, right? And so she's already kind of got a lot of rumors spread around her, presumably why she's going to the well in the middle of the day. But yet, this woman, she continues with her dialogue anyway, despite the fact that it could have some serious implications in her life. And it's kind of funny because I kind of get the sense that she's trying to get Jesus to go away by throwing some mild insults his direction, and just kind of like being a little brash with Jesus. In verse 9, she says, "How can you ask me for a drink? You are a Jew and I am a Samaritan. Like, go away. Like, leave me alone," right? And in verse 11, she says, "Sir, you have nothing to draw with, and the well is deep." Like, you didn't even bring a bucket here. What are you doing here? Like, go away. And then she continues with her insults in that verse, and she says, "Are you greater than our father Jacob? Are you better than Jacob?" I mean, she doesn't know this is Jesus, right? She understands the concept of Messiah, but she hasn't been exposed to him in that way. And so she's kind of like, who do you think you are, right? And so then even in verse 25, she tries to get rid of him this way. She's like, "I know that the Messiah called Christ, I know that he's coming, and when he comes, he'll explain it all to us. When he comes, he'll let me know what's going on," right? But she's not alone in being in this really interesting situation. Jesus is just as, the implications for Jesus are just as great for him. Because he's not married to this woman, and she's a Samaritan and he's a Jew, and it kind of goes both ways there, right? So what's Jesus doing? Well, it comes back to that lesson that Eric was teaching us, and Jesus knows that the eye can't say to the hand that I don't need you, right? He values this woman despite the fact that she's a Samaritan, despite the fact that he knows who she is, that he knows that she has 5 husbands and is living in this not acceptable situation. He still values her. He knows that his kingdom needs her, and that she's a part of his kingdom. He knows that. He simply gives her some words of encouragement, right? In verses 21, he says, "Believe me, woman, a time is coming when you will worship the Father, neither on this mountain nor in Jerusalem. Yet a time is coming and has come now when the true worshipers will worship the Father in spirit and truth, for they are the kind of worshiper the Father seeks. God is spirit, and his worshipers must worship him in spirit and truth." He's telling her, don't worry about these earthly rules. Don't worry about where you're going to do it. Don't worry about who you are. Don't worry about what your past is, what you're currently doing. Are you worshiping the Father in truth and in spirit? This is what the Father seeks. This is what matters. It doesn't matter if you're the eye. It doesn't matter if you're the foot. And it doesn't matter what your past or your present is. Just be yourself and be truthful to yourself. God accepts who you are. He knows who you are. I mean, look how Jesus handles her past, right? In verse 18, the second part of it, he says, what you have just said is quite true. He tells her truth, and he says, that's absolutely right, absolutely. But he doesn't like say that's bad, that's wrong, no way, like that's gross. He just says, yeah, that's who you are. That's your truth. That's your story. Now, come with me and be a worshiper in truth and spirit. Find your spring of water eternal from my truth. That's what Jesus is saying. find your, you know, your spirit. Find that from me, from knowing my truth. This makes me think of David when he's coming down the street in his parade, right? When he's bringing the ark back, and his spring of water is just so full that it comes out unashamed, that he doesn't care that he's girding his loins, that he doesn't care that he's practically naked, that he's dancing in the street and looking like a fool, because he's worshiping the Father in truth and in spirit. He has the Spirit within him overflowing, and that's what Jesus is encouraging this woman to do. Don't care about what other people are saying or what they're thinking. Just worship the Father in spirit and truth. Jesus takes his message of inclusiveness to all who are willing to do this, right? He encourages an unlikely disciple, the woman at the well, to preach to an unlikely group, the Samaritans. He's a Jew. That's probably the last people are expecting him to go to. And yet, he converts a whole town through one woman. And not just one woman, an outsider. Somebody who thinks that they're an outcast. Samaritans and Jews don't mix. But Jesus doesn't care. He's like, I need these people. They're a part of my kingdom. Remember, at first, this woman can't even give Jesus a drink. She says, how can I give you a drink? You're a Jew and I'm a Samaritan. But then in verse 40, it says this: so when the Samaritans came to him, they urged him to stay with them, and he stayed with them for 2 days. He can't even get a drink of water from this lady, and now he's staying with Samaritans. He's living in their houses. He's eating their food. He's drinking their water in their house. She's at a well. Who cares? But now they're inviting them in, right? This is the ultimate inclusiveness, right? They've accepted him. He's accepted them, and they've accepted him in turn, right? And so now we come back to our situation. Do you feel lost with what's going on? Do you feel like, I don't have a place. I don't, like what Eric was talking about on Monday, like, I don't feel important. I don't feel like I have a purpose. But maybe you feel unequipped in this time, right? Like, what can I possibly do during this time? Or maybe it's something even deeper, right? Do you have shame, or do you feel like, I don't know, there's something in your past that's prohibiting you from reaching out and meeting others' needs? I hope that you can find freedom through this story and knowing that you don't need to hide from the truth. Jesus never commissions this woman to go spread the word to her town. Instead, her own personal spring of water is filled and is welling up so full that she couldn't help but go and share her experience, leaving her water pitcher behind. She no longer feared interacting with her town because she knew she belonged. Not necessarily to her community that she's living in, but she knew she belonged to the Father, and she knew she belonged to God, and she knew she belonged to the kingdom. And it's through this knowledge of knowing that Jesus, this man that she just met, is the Savior, and all the things that he told her, and the encouragement of just worshiping the Father in the truth and spirit. And with that, she understood that sometimes this is what exactly happens, right? Going to Corinthians 12, verses 22 through 25. On the contrary, those parts of the body, that seem to be weaker are indispensable, and the parts that we think are less honorable we treat with special honor. And the parts that are unpresentable are treated with special modesty, and while our presentable parts need no special treatment, but God has combined the members of the body and has given greater honor to the parts that lacked it, so that there should be no division in the body, but that its parts should have equal concern for each other. If that doesn't talk about the Samaritans and the Jews, I don't know what else it's talking about, right? So let's embrace this weird situation that we're in. Let's embrace who we are together. Let's not waste this time just because it seems undesirable. If we seem like we're in a situation where we've had 5 husbands and this just feels like drab, and I don't want to go out, and I don't want to be around people or something, I don't know how, or I don't know what to do. Just embrace the truth. Like, embrace who you are. Find that spirit inside of you and be full through knowing who Jesus is, and let that overtake you, and then let that guide you, because Jesus doesn't give her a strict commission, go, right? He just fills her. So be filled by the Spirit so that way you can go out. if Jesus could use this unlikely source of the woman at the well to bring a message to an unlikely people, the Samaritans, imagine what he can do with you and me, right? This week's songs are going to be a song called Come to Jesus. It's and parentheses Untitled hymn. It's by Jason Lovins band. It's a great life journey type song of constantly encouraging us, like when life goes up and life comes down, just keep going back to Jesus, keep going back to that well and be filled from there. And the second song is a super challenging song. It's called Beautiful Letdown. It's by Switchfoot. It's got a really catchy beat. It's kind of got a little like fun, I don't know, you can get lost in the music in this song, but I encourage you to really listen to these words, to read the lyrics, because it's so challenging. It's encouraging us to let go of this worldly view of a perfect life and to embrace the life of being a disciple, of being filled by the Spirit and what that looks like. And this song fits perfect with what we just learned about with the woman at the well. And I just really encourage you to check out those two songs. And I hope that you've found encouragement through this message. And thanks for spending some time with me. And I look forward to seeing you next week. Y'all have a great weekend. Bye-bye.